Hi, my name's Sam Appleton. I'm a 9-time 70.3 champion, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Podcast. Was that right? Physical Performance?
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Listeners, welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show, the show that takes you behind the scenes of how the world's top and most inspiring physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs and the lows of the journey in getting there. Today's show, as always, is lovingly brought to you by POGO Physio. We exist to help you perform at your physical best through our industry-first, fixed price and unlimited access 2, 6 and 12-week finish line programs. We want everyone who walks through the doors of POGO to get back to their physical best and to get to a point where they get a high five from us. You're told that we love you, but we don't want to see you back with that injury and you're back doing the things that you love. We call that your finish line. We ensure that you cross your finish line through our fixed fees, whereby you can now get the treatment that you truly need and will most benefit from, as opposed to the treatment that you can financially manage under the traditional session-to-session physiotherapy model. Our finish line programs include active rehabilitation, clinical Pilates, Galileo whole body vibration therapy, Alter-G anti-gravity treadmill running, unlimited hands-on treatment with physiotherapy, and access also to remedial massage therapy and podiatry. You can now work towards a certain outcome with certainty of spend and certainty of time. Jump over to pogophysio.com.au to find out more about our industry-first finish line programs and also learn more about our unique Discover Recover initial physiotherapy consultations. It all starts with an accurate diagnosis. Massive thank you to you, the faithful listener. If this is your 69th time, thank you for joining us again on the Physical Performance Show. If it's your first time tuning in today, then welcome. And if you go back through the treasure trove of guests, I hope you take some great learnings and wisdom from the very generous and credentialed guests that we've enjoyed having on the Physical Performance Show so far. Each and every week, I like to give a shout out to one of the listeners who's taken the time to leave a review on iTunes. And this week, I'd like to acknowledge Will Cooper. And Will Cooper's rated the Physical Performance Show 5 stars. And Will says, great informative listening, which makes going to work easier. So, Brett C. Brett C, you might be Will or you might be Brett C, but either way, a massive thank you. And if you're thinking, listeners, about leaving a review, make it the week to do it. I'd really appreciate it. Simply, reviews help index the show more highly inside iTunes and therefore more visible, if you like, in the eyeballs on the screen or in the earbuds of listeners who, just like you, are looking to perform at their physical best. Last week's guest was none other than Siggy Ragnarsson. Young Siggy is looking to become Iceland's first triathlon representative at the Olympic Games in Tokyo 2020. So if you missed Siggy sharing, he is an incredible character who won the hearts and minds of everyone who watched the world debut of the Super League Triathlon Series in 2017 on Hamilton Island. So jump back over episode 68 and check out Siggy if you miss Siggy. This week, we are in for another triathlon treat. The triathlon theme continues. And today we catch up with Sam Appleton, Appo. Appo is a 70.3 triathlon multiple champion, former member of the Bahrain Endurance 13, and also just a great young athlete with a huge future, I believe. Sam has taken some of the greatest scalps, if you like, in the world of triathlon, including one of his childhood heroes, Craig Alexander, or Crowie, as he's affectionately known. And inside this episode, Sam talks about morphing from a swim background over to triathlon. He talks around training philosophies, and he also takes us literally on a journey through the US as he's in transit. So you're going to really enjoy Sam Appleton on today's episode. Let's jump straight in with Appo. Listeners, I am excited because this morning I'm joined by Sam Appleton, and Sam's somewhere in the US on the road. So if we have a bit of a background noise, it's because Sam's doing Highway 1 there in the US as we speak. But no, it's going to add a bit of flavour, a bit of a dynamic sensation of the program. So Sam, great to have you online this morning.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, sorry, I'm actually driving. I'm on my way to Colorado Springs at the moment. So I thought it wouldn't be too bad with the audio, so hopefully it turns out okay for you guys.
Well, it feels like we're on the road with you. So what's drawing you to Colorado Springs, Sam?
So I'm driving there from Boulder. It's a couple of hours. It's actually my girlfriend's mum's birthday dinner tonight. So you got to do the right thing. So I'm heading down there, finish my training for the day. Heading down there now for dinner tonight, and then I'll be back tomorrow morning. So yeah, good to keep a bit of balance and have a social life outside of training, which is something very important to me. Actually, it's it's not all work. I really appreciate a work-life balance. So yeah, this is something that's important to me.
Good, mate. We'll safe travels and talking about things that are good to you. Let's talk about things that scare you. What's something that scares Sam Appleton?
Something that scares me. Far out. Something that scares me. I guess it's a bit of a cliche, but not living up to my potential, I guess, is something that's that I'm afraid of, and something that's always on my mind as well. But something on a bit lighthearted. I'm scared of a lot of the sort of American politics. That's something I've been living over here 2 years now, so that's something that I'm scared of as a foreigner living in America at the moment. So
you haven't had any close calls, have you, Sam? The wild boy from Oz?
No, not yet. Fortunately, I think Oz and the US are on pretty good terms, so I think I'm safe. But
and in terms of Sam, you mentioned not living up to your potential. What scares you about that?
I don't know. I just guess the sport for me is always, it's an individual pursuit. It's always about striving for the best, and it's definitely comes from deep inside. It's not a own personal desire to achieve. It's not a fame or a monetary thing for me. It's my driving force definitely is intrinsic, and so I guess that's where a lot of my success and results have come from over the past few years. So.
And if you had to explore that a bit further, that drive, is that you just think, is that a theme that's through your family, Sam, or that's something that you don't really know where it comes from, you just know it's in there?
No, definitely. I see it. I've got 3 brothers, and they're all, while they're not all athletic, they're all very dedicated to their own pursuits, be it education, work. My mum, she's an avid triathlete as well. My dad's got a tremendous work ethic. So, yeah, it definitely runs in the family. And while I might be the only brother that's sort of progressed through in a sporting sort of career, all my brothers have been great swimmers in the past and, very competitive. So I think, I definitely think it's something that was sort of, drilled into us at a young age to work hard for what we want. And, so I'm very fortunate to have an upbringing like that.
And, mate, you mentioned you're one of 4 brothers. Where are you, Sam, in the birth order?
I'm the second youngest or third oldest.
Depends which way you look at it. Exactly.
So, yeah. There's 1 younger and 2 older, so, yeah.
And so growing up, there was always a bit of need to get in and prove your worth amongst, 3 other brothers, right?
Yeah, for sure. There was always one of the brothers trying to assert their dominance, and but we all had we were a great, we all really close. We're a great, we all stay in touch to this day, and it's great. We all support each other in our own endeavours. So, but yeah, definitely when we were growing up, there was a a pecking order for sure. And I think my oldest brother, he always made sure that he knew he was the alpha dog.
So what's your genesis story, Sam, in triathlon? I know, when we've spoken over the years, I've unearthed a little bit of your story, and you've been you're a junior triathlete early in life, but what was the first recollection of you going, wow, that's a great sport and that's something I'm interested in? Can you remember what the first light bulb moment was?
Yeah, so I started out as a swimmer. I think a lot of Australians, especially Australian triathletes, have that, just with surf lifesaving and being active at the beach and things like that. Swimming's kind of second nature to a lot of Australians. So I grew up swimming, and I played a lot of soccer, and I showed reasonable success in school cross-country and athletics and things like that. And it was actually my swimming coach that sort of showed me in the direction of triathlon. And I remember the all-schools triathlon, which I used to think was the biggest race of the entire, the biggest triathlon race of the entire season. And I just gradually sort of progressed through high school and was involved in the talent identification program. And I started racing the ITU series as I finished high school. And it got to a point where I plateaued a lot in my results, and I grew a bit stagnant. I wasn't particularly enjoying the training as such. And that's when I made the sort of decision. I turned away from triathlon, had a bit of a break, and then I came back and started doing the longer course stuff, which is where I am today. So that's kind of my story, the short of it anyway.
Your genesis story? And Sam, just to rewind the clock there, you mentioned you had some reasonable success growing up in the pool. You were a very strong swimmer, weren't you? I think you went off the nationals. What was your best result in the years of pool swimming?
Yeah, I went to nationals. I was actually a 200 butterflyer. I was a really late developer, so I didn't really hit my growth spurt. So I wasn't that quick over the 50 or the 100 free when I was 13 years old and racing guys that, look like I look now at 27. So I was never that good over the shorter stuff. So I was more of an endurance swimmer. I had some, success in 200 fly, and then I moved into a lot of open water swimming as well. I did some 5,000 open water races. I went to nationals for that as well. So I really enjoyed swimming, but I think it's just a hard sport. I was doing 10 sessions a week, before school, 5 a.m. after school, and it's just a hard life to live. And I got kind of tired of it after a while, and then found running as an outlet, and then eventually into triathlon.
So how old were you, Sam, when you made that you got to that bit of a burnout point with your swimming? Were you 14, 15, 12?
I was about 15. And I was dabbling in triathlon on the side. And then I decided that I kind of came to a point where I could keep continuing swimming, or I could go out and really pursue triathlon, which is where my passion was. And I made it was a tough decision because I love swimming as well. But I made the decision to pursue triathlon more and focus on that. And I haven't really looked back since.
No, you haven't, mate. Your results have been exemplary, and I know the best is still ahead. So, mate, triathletes though, who was the first triathlete that you wanted to emulate? Professional.
It's hard to go past someone like Craig Alexander. He's just in my eyes, the ultimate professional, and someone that I'd looked up to for so many years growing up, and now fortunately I'm able to actually call him a friend. We actually rode 3 hours this morning together, so you still kind of pinch yourself that when I was 14, 15, 16, I was lining up for autographs for this guy when he was showing up at Ironman Australia, and now now he's messaging me asking me what training I'm doing tomorrow and if he can tag along. So it's it's quite surreal, but it's someone like Craig, he's the true professional. He's very humble on and off the course, in victory and defeat, and I think the way he carries himself is excellent.
And it must have been then, Sam, I was I was on course, not racing, but on the sidelines. 2015 Cairns 70.3 Ironman, and that day you took the win, and Craig came in for a podium in third behind your, at the time, coach Tim Reed as well. So that must have been quite a special day, mate, beating your idol. Correct me if I'm wrong, that was the first time?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, Craig and I went head-to-head in Geelong in 2015, and he actually out-sprinted me. Well, not out-sprinted me, but I hung with him until about a K to go, and then I lost him, and he took the win, and I got second. And yeah, I came to Cairns, and I was eager for some redemption. And fortunately, I had a really good day, and yeah, to be able to not only race alongside people like Craig and Tim Reed, it's but to be beating them is something that's it's crazy. I still have to pinch myself at times, but yeah, it's amazing.
And mate, in terms of your junior years, I want to move off that in a moment, but just to plumb a little bit deeper, to give listeners a bit of context. I mean, we see you podiuming now, and one of the forces to be reckoned with across the 70.3 distance in the world of international triathlon. But as a junior, I mean, schoolboy stuff and cross country, were you podiuming necessarily as a junior in those events, or were you up in the top tier but not quite cracking through, or were you just always excelling?
I was a decent cross-country runner. I made it to nationals a couple of times, but I was always, at the time when I was racing cross-country, I was still focusing on triathlon, and I was never putting everything into running. And when you're coming up at nationals and racing pure runners, it's just kind of a different ball game. But I was fortunate enough to go through to like the national ranks and in cross-country, and then moving into triathlon, like the all schools, I represented New South Wales a couple of times at the nationals as well, which was, always, you ask any of those guys that I used to race against, it was always the biggest race of the year for us. And to get selected on that New South Wales team to go and race against all the other states at nationals was a huge honour, and what felt like at the time the pinnacle of the sport, really. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to make a couple of national teams, and I learned the ropes through that, and it's just a good stepping stone into the more sort of elite and professional ranks of triathlon. I think it really just kind of shows you what it's all about, and it gives you an idea of where the level is, and if you want to keep going, sort of what direction you need to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I recall those New South Wales days. I was in New South Wales, overseas, listeners, New South Wales is a state of Australia, and, making the teams and going off to national schoolboys. And I agree, Sam, that was in the years of the school that they were the pinnacle of the sport. That was everything, right? Hanging around all schools.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Sam, before we jump over to your 70.3 world, the ITU stuff, was there any memorable stories from your 2 years that you spent on the scene, trying to crack that Olympic distance style racing? Any one story that stands out as memorable? Yeah,
there's like the ITU. It's such a cutthroat, but I really look back at those days, and it taught me so much about the sport, and it gave me skills that I still use to this day. I'm fortunate enough that I went through those ITU ranks, and I worked really hard on my swimming for a couple of years, and now it's, the swim is something that I can call one of my strengths now, which is nice. But yeah, I had a couple of decent results in the ITU. I feel like I didn't really hit my potential as much. I think something that was pretty special to me, it seems like a long time ago, but I was actually the Australian junior sprint champion in 2009, I think it was. I was 19. It was myself, Aaron Royal, who's now an Australian Olympian. He's gone on and had great success in the ITU, and Jamie Huggett. I think we're all together with about a K to go, and it was pretty much a three-way sprint finish for the Australian title. And to get that was pretty special. An Australian title, something that no one can ever take away from you. And while it was only junior, it was a pretty big sort of win for me. And yeah, I chased the ITU scene as well over in Europe, and doing a couple of the World Cups and things like that over there. And I did the French Grand Prix racing as well, which is kind of that shorter, sharper draft legal style racing. It's really fun, and it teaches you some great skills. And like I said, I'm still using some of those skills today.
In terms of those practical skills like transitions and positioning on the course, things like that. Sam, you mean?
Yeah, for sure. Skills like that, fast transitions, and even skills, like physiological and training adaptations from, training to try and run a 31 minute 10K off the bike, which is what you need to be competitive in ITU. That kind of stuff, it translates really well over into 70.3, which is a little bit more of like the 70.3 is obviously a bit of a slower pace, but if you've got those 3 minute kilometers in your back pocket, it's definitely a good skill to have. And like I said, being able to make front swim packs at most of the races that I do now is, it's a great skill to have in my back pocket as well.
Absolutely. And Sam, you mentioned Aaron Royal there, and listeners, if you missed Aaron Royal's episode 61, jump back and have a listen to Aaron's story. But Aaron actually cites you, Sam, as the athlete that he'd mark as his toughest competitor because of some of those ding-dong battles that you guys had, one of which you just mentioned. Yeah,
for sure. Aaron and I, we're the same age, and we fell into the sport at pretty much the same time. And we knew each other through swimming. We'd raced each other a couple of times. And we both pretty much followed the exact same progression. And through when we were 16, 17, 18, all the way until we were 20, 21, 22, we were racing each other, and we were, tremendous friends off the racetrack. We actually lived together, but, fierce rivals when it came to racing. But that's the great thing about triathlon. I've got lifelong friends here that I've made through the sport, and everyone's so friendly to each other and everyone gets along. But then when it's come race day, it's there's no friends out on the racetrack.
There's no love lost, is there? Sam, you had a year. You had a bit of a downtime after your ITU. You decided that just wasn't your future. In that downtime, you started uni, I believe. What were you studying at university?
So I was studying. I went and I first studied PE teaching, but then I progressed over into physio, and I did that for a little while, and then I also was doing occupational therapy as well, and I kind of jumped around a little bit. But once I found the love again for triathlon, I was going to university and I just wasn't enjoying it. My mind just wanted to be out training, and it got to a point where I couldn't do both at the level that I wanted to, and I had to make a decision one way or the other. And I picked triathlon. That was where my heart was, and that's what I wanted to do deep down. And I definitely have no regrets in that decision. I had the full support of my family and friends, so that's it's great. It's great to have that support in your decisions. And I've never looked back, and maybe I will go back to school and finish my degree, but at the moment, while I'm still enjoying success within triathlon, I'm definitely not losing any sleep over it, let's put it that way.
No, mate, and that's often, I find, a real transition point for athletes pursuing their physical best, like professionally, or, taking what's a much more safer, traditional option of, I'll, go into the workforce and pursue my career. So, mate, as a backup option, Sam, know that if you ever want to pursue your tertiary studies again, we'll have a job waiting as a physiotherapist for you at POGO, mate.
Awesome. I'll keep that in mind.
As a backup plan, Sam. Sam, 70.3 World, it's really just, I was so impressed watching you take that victory that day in 2015 up at Cairns. I thought, wow, here's an athlete with still years of strength development ahead, already taking major names in the sport, and just really leading from, I believe, almost start to finish, so dominant in that display. And, I mean, your resume, there's just win after win, 70.3 Geelong, 2017 this year, Challenge Melbourne this year, victories, 70.3 Santa Rosa. I mean, your credentials, Sam, as the top of the show, as per your bio, are enormous. Of all your 70.3 wins, all podiums, is there one race in particular, Sam, that stands out as the most memorable for you, and which one and why?
I think that day at Cairns, that was kind of a really special day for me. It was that was my third 70.3 win, but I think it's the first time that I'd sort of gone head-to-head with guys like Crowe and Tim Reed and have come out on top. So, and that kind of, it kind of triggered something inside me that day that it kind of triggered something inside me. And I knew that I had the belief in myself to sort of make it in this sport, because guys like Crowe and Tim Reed and Tim Burkle and all those guys that I was racing against, to be able to get ahead of those guys and win, it was something that was really special. And it kind of, it flicked a switch inside of me that I kind of needed, and it gave me that confidence moving forward. And I've definitely used that race and that sort of that pivotal moment at Cairns to, and transferred it into a few more 70.3 wins since then, which is it's been really nice, and it's a trend that I definitely want to keep on going if possible.
Keep the roll going. And you mentioned the word belief, Sam. It's it's obvious, but you can have all the physical capabilities, but without that innate belief, you're not going to pull off victories. So up to that point, is it fair to say that your belief wavered a little bit, but as you said, that was a real trigger? Like, no, you can beat the best names in the sport.
I think so. I wouldn't say that I was doubting myself as such, and that cost me results in the past. But a huge part of this sport is mental, and there's so many people out there that are as fit as each other. But it's just, a lot of it is mental strength as well, I think. And to have that belief in yourself, it goes a long way. And I think people underestimate that at times. It's not just about who's the best swim biker and runner. There's so much more to it than that. And I think having that belief in your ability and the confidence in your own ability as well is really important to transferring to success. And that's definitely something that I've worked on over the past few years. And there is times when it gets hard and mentally you don't want to do it, but I think those days where you are mentally challenged is the days where you really sort of start to come. You learn from those, and each time you get mentally stronger. And I think for sure belief is a huge part of this sport.
And talking about belief, you're preparing for putting some later stage preparations in place for obviously the World 70.3 Championships triathlon that is coming up very, very soon. Only a matter of, I think, weeks away now, or depending on which way you look at it, months, weeks. But what's a typical week look like for you at the moment, Sam? Can you put listeners in your shoes for a typical week of training?
Yeah, for sure. So my coach is Matt Dixon from Purple Patch. He coaches a few other guys, Tim Reed and Jesse Thomas, Kevin Collington, a few names that some listeners might have heard of. But my program's very much focused around really nailing hard key sessions, and then a big emphasis on recovering on those sessions as well. There's not too much grey area in my program, and some people think that sort of I'm a bit light on in the overall training load. I think I do somewhere between 20 to 23 hours is probably a standard week for me. 25 would be a big week. So it's not a ton of volume, but within that week, there's a lot of specificity and a lot of intensity. We usually Monday and Friday are an easy-ish day, because I've usually got big weekends, and then I usually hit a big day, Tuesday or Wednesday as well. It's not huge numbers and it's not huge volume. It's just about getting the work done consistently. And if you can nail those key sessions during the week, and then I put all my focus on recovery to nail the key sessions again, that will be 2 days later in the week. So that's kind of what a basic week looks like for me. It might be, I don't even really know how many the distance that I do in a week. I don't really tally numbers too much, but if I was to guess, it might be four or five swims, with a couple of easy ones in there, maybe four bike rides and 4 to 5 bike rides, and probably four to 5 runs as well. So.
And you mentioned, the key sessions. Like lately, what have been some of the key sessions that have signposted for you, mate, that you're en route to a good performance at the Worlds?
So yesterday I did a track session. I did a pretty pretty stock standard 8x1K on the track with 2 minutes recovery. But I was really focusing on trying to run at my 10K pace. So I was trying to hover around the 305 to 310, which is at altitude as well at Boulder. So it's a little bit harder. The bike day might be 3.5 hours with 75 to 90 minutes worth of time trialing efforts, and then a 40-minute run off the bike with some 1 mile repeats or some 1K repeats, something like that. So that's usually my biggest session is that Saturday brick. 3 to 4 hours on the hard run off the bike. Yeah.
And in the water, Sam, any real favourite signposts that you're in good form in the water? I mean, you swim like a fish.
Yeah, that's the. I always find the swimming to me is the hardest. It's the thing that I'm usually least motivated for, or least enthused about. But I get it done, and there is a session that I like to do. I might do, like a set of 18 100s descending down to. I swim in yards now that I've been in America for so long, so it's to convert to short course to long course meters. It's a bit longer, but I do. I might do some hard hundreds, trying to come in on sub 60 seconds in short course yards. So that might be equate to 105s in a meters pool. So something like a descending 100 session, 15 to 20 hundreds or so descending, and usually as the intensity or the pace gets higher, I increase the rest so I can keep the quality up. So I might do the last 5 on, a minute 45. So I'm getting 45 seconds rest, but I'm making sure that I'm doing them all under 60 seconds. So I'm keeping the quality there. But making sure that I'm having enough rest so I can keep that intensity up.
Yeah, and I mean, your swimming pedigree obviously shows in that, Sam, as an example. Recovery, you said recovery is really strategic for you. What have you learned over the years, Apo, in terms of recovery? Have you really fine-tuned that in recent years as you've realised that you're now playing with the best in the sport as opposed to your junior years? What are your key recovery insights you've learned along the way? Yeah,
I think something that Matt has really taught me, and Tim Reed, my coach before Matt, was to have confidence to do less. I think that's something that a lot of triathletes, and understandably a lot of triathletes, have difficulty with, is doing less. They think they should be sort of sitting in that grey area all the time, and that's where I've found a lot of benefits. If I've got a recovery ride, I'll do 45 minutes. I won't go out for a 2-hour recovery ride because I feel like that's not really a recovery ride. It's an endurance ride. You're still getting an endurance benefit out of it. You know what I mean? So my program's very black and white. It's either I'm going hard or I'm going easy. And my results have also given me the confidence to trust in the program as well. And obviously it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. This is something that I use to identify as what works for me. But if I did have one tip, it would be to have the confidence to do less. And when in doubt, do less. I think if you're tired, if you're not feeling it, a lot of times people will push through. And I understand that urge as well. I get that all the time. But as soon as, Matt tells me to cool it off, then I've got no problem in shutting it down for the day and having the rest of the day off if I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, mate. Your intelligence exceeds your years, Sam. And I felt that was when I first met you at Cairns when I was doing a bit of the physio work there for the Bahrain Endurance 13 when you were part of that team, and to have the confidence to rest. That's, to not panic. It's a lesson that athletes all need to learn. And mate, clearly you've already got that under your belt. So well done to you, mate. You mentioned coaching. For sure. Thank you. I recall at Cairns, Tim Reed was your coach at that stage, and you came out and Tim podiumed in second. And you were, took the victory that day. And I thought, I wonder what the conversation was like between and anyone in the triathlon world that knows Tim Reed knows that he's one of the true gentlemen of the sport. And so what was the first words that the coach said to the athlete after the athlete beat the coach?
I think I actually remember what Tim said. He said the money that he lost with me beating him at that race didn't even begin to cover the amount that I'd paid him in coaching over the past 2 years. So I think, he lost more money on that day than he gained from coaching me for the past 2 years. So that was kind of a running joke that we had. But yeah, Tim did his job probably a little bit too well. We still remain great friends.
Yeah.
But he got to a point where it's just too much of a conflict of interest for him, and he was actively putting effort and time into someone that was trying to take his lunch money.
Yeah.
And he found that quite difficult to put that time and effort in, and then for me to come out and be one of his main competitors. And there was no hard feelings. Tim and I are great friends. He's actually staying at my place now in Boulder.
Yep.
And so there was nothing. Definitely we parted on great terms. So
no, mate, I always assumed that would be the case, because you're both you're both great ambassadors for the sport and mates, and that's great, the wisdom and the maturity's there. So mate, let's talk about a bit of a performance. Let's go into a performance round, Sam. So this is the quick fire interval session for you. You ready to jump into it?
Yeah, for sure.
Training session you most dislike?
Most dislike? It's probably my key run session of the week. It's a love-hate relationship. You dread it for a couple of days leading in, but once it's done, and if you nail it, it feels so sweet. And I remember leading into 70.3 Worlds last year, I had this one session every week for about 6 weeks. It was two times 25 minutes on the run, trying to run at 70.3 pace for that 25 minutes. And I used to dread it, but man, it felt good to have that one in your back pocket. When it was done, and then leading into the race. And
this is out of pure interest, what pace were those 25-minute increments? Were they?
So I was trying to hold around about 3:30 kilometre pace. It was anywhere from 3:25 to 3:35, I think, is what I was trying to hold. And I used to do it on a dirt, undulating road, which made it a little bit harder, I think, But I used to usually just try to dial it in, and then, it's by 10 to 15 minutes, you're really hurting, but, you just kind of stick it out. And I was fortunate enough, I had Sarah, my girlfriend. She would always come out, and she'd be on the bike next to me, so she had the Garmin on, and I had the Garmin on. Sure. So having someone like her alongside was great. Definitely keeps you pushing.
Sam, training session you most love?
Probably my long ride when I don't have any intervals or any efforts. You can just go out, enjoy the scenery, especially in Boulder. It's got some great riding. You can ride up high to 3,000 metres, 3,500 metres above sea level, and really get in that high altitude work. But it's I just love going out and riding, not having to worry about power or efforts or anything, and just enjoying it. You can stop for lunch or something along the way, and that's probably my favourite session of the week. But I don't always get them every week, so I really got to cherish them when I do get them in my program.
What's your favourite pre-race meal, Sam?
Like the morning before, or the night, like the morning before the race, or the night before the race?
Both. What would you have the night before the race? Both. What's typically worked for you?
I usually have something pretty simple. Maybe some rice and veggies and chicken or something, or a pizza. I'm not super fussy. I'm not one of those guys that is religious about eating the same thing every meal, the night before every race. But usually something that I know has got, a bit of some carbs, some protein, and some fats, and making sure I'm getting them from decent fuel sources as well. And then probably before a race, something a bit unorthodox, but I like to eat like a chocolate muffin or something, because usually 70.3s are starting so early at 6:30 a.m. So you're up at 3:30, and sometimes I just find a chocolate muffin a lot more appealing than something else. So I'll eat a chocolate muffin or some sort of muffin, and then maybe a boiled egg on toast or something like that. Something pretty simple as well. I usually do an egg because it's they're high in protein and high in good fats as well. And that's sort of something I try and replicate in my day-to-day diet as well, is a pretty even spread of carbs, protein, and fats.
How do you do your eggs pre-race, Sam? Is it poached, boiled, fried?
I usually just boil them the night before, and then I just open the fridge and throw it in my mouth.
Crack it open.
Pretty much it. Nothing fancy.
Sam, the next 70.3 race you're in, there's going to be an absence of chocolate muffins on all the aisles of the supermarkets, mate.
Yeah.
Sam, this works for Sam. Mate, what's your bedtime, morning time routine like?
I'm usually in bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock. asleep not long after that, and I sleep a lot. I usually sleep till 7 a.m. So I make sure I get at least 8 to 9 hours a night. So that's what I try and aim for anyway. And yeah, I'm more of a gentleman of leisure. I don't really adhere to the 5:30 a.m. swim starts that a lot of people do. I like to sort of wake up and have my coffee and check the news, check some social media, and just roll out the door when I'm ready at 8:30 or something.
Easy way in. Well, I think that's actually incredibly smart. I mean, as you say, the 5:30 swim times, unless you can, it's interesting unless you're competing at that time, which you are.
Yeah, exactly.
But then there's that cost benefit. I mean, sleep is just such a performance enhancer, right? Who's the athlete,
for
Appo,
sure,
you most admire and why?
I think I touched on it before, but probably Craig Alexander. Just, like I said before, he's just the ultimate professional. He's the way he carries himself on and off the race course is something that I really aspire to be similar to that. And if I can have 10% of the results that Craig's had in his career, I'll be I can retire a happy man. But yeah, Craig, someone like Craig he's great for the sport, and he's great for the young people to look up to, and I look up to him for so many years. And yeah, I'm now fortunate enough to call him a friend and a training partner, and someone that I can actually touch up on the racetrack every now and again, which is definitely pretty sweet.
That's awesome. The competitor who is the toughest you've ever raced, who's the toughest competitor? Sam?
I feel, going back to the junior, maybe someone like Tim Reed. He's definitely he's a very, very smart athlete, very hard to beat, very mentally tough. And, he's someone that I race head-to-head with a lot, probably more so than most other athletes that I race against. So being, from Australia and racing in the US and Australia year-round, it's, we often clash a couple of times throughout the year. So, and beating him is very sweet as well. So we're actually racing each other in Racine, 70.3 in 2 weeks. So I beat him last time at Challenge Melbourne. I think he's pretty hungry for some redemption, but yeah, we'll have to see about that.
So we'll watch with eager anticipation with the results. Mate, is there a mantra that you use when you're racing, Sam? Something that's regularly going through your mind or your head?
I think not really. There is a lot of times where I do have to tell myself to relax. I feel like there's a lot of wasted energy when you try and force yourself to go too hard. Often I find if I relax and focus on breathing and cadence, especially when I'm running, I can actually run the same pace for a couple of, beats per minute, heart rate lower, if I focus on relaxing and my cadence and breathing. And that's something that I'm sort of trying to work on in my running is relaxing. Because when you force it, I feel like you waste a lot of energy. And it's something that you don't really need to do. And if you relax and you can focus on that rhythm and breathing, that's something that I try and work on anyway when I'm running, in training and in racing. In fact, so. And
it's such a common theme, when the hammer's going down, it's if you can stay relaxed, it's going to yield your results. Sam, your worst injury? What's the worst injury you've ever had to work through?
When I was 15, I found this hobby called skateboarding, and it's not I guess it's not a training overload injury, but I was I took a liking to skateboarding, and I thought I was the coolest kid in town skating around. I was one of those kids, and I used to go to the skate park a lot, and I remember I forget what I was doing, some trick at the skate park, and I actually I rolled my ankle severely and actually cracked the growth plate and tore the ligaments in my ankle, and I ended up being on crutches for about 3 months, and it just did not heal. Soft tissue injuries, people that have dealt with them, and you as a physio, that there's just not enough blood flow to them, and they just don't heal quickly. And that was something that pretty much put my triathlon season on hold. Like, I was only 15, so there wasn't much of a season anyway. Obviously, something like that now is a lot more dire than it was when I was 15. But that's probably the worst injury I've had. And I've been fortunate enough to not really have too many overtraining injuries as such. I've had some Achilles tendinopathy on and off for a couple of years, but it's never really put me out for too long.
So this has come and gone. And any tips on getting on top of your Achilles tendinopathy for you, Sam, that you found has worked really well?
Well, something that I found worked for me, which is you might have read about this or seen it out in the wild. I actually found that rest actually didn't help it. And when I progressively brought in load and I loaded on the Achilles gradually, what it actually did is it promoted healing for me. So I found that when I would, obviously you have to be careful with it. You can't just go out and, if you've got a sore Achilles, and run a marathon and hope it's better. But I actually found that if I did some strength work in the gym, some like eccentric calf loading, and then gradually brought in running back into my program, it actually healed up. And, perhaps you can comment on this better than I can. I feel like that stimulated more the healing process better than just actually the rest and ice and things like that. So that was my experience anyway.
Absolutely, Sam. And we recently interviewed Mr. Dr. Peter Maliaris out of Melbourne, tendon researcher and physiotherapist as well. And Peter shared around, literature supports tendons rest, complete abstinence for tendon injuries is often not the answer at all. It's rarely the answer. It's loading the tendon up appropriately over time with enough loads. So mate, good on you for figuring that out. Tell me, Sam, what's one word only you'd use to describe your racing style?
Smart.
How would you describe being in the zone?
Like when I'm racing?
Yeah, when you're in the zone.
I think it's exhilarating. Is this still a one-word answer?
Yeah, it can be whatever you want. You're the guest.
No. I think, when you're in the zone and you're feeling it, you're running well, you're riding well. Say you're leading the bike in a race, and it's exhilarating. It feels awesome. It's people often comment on the runner's high. When you go out and you run, you feel really good, and it feels like you can run as hard as you want or all day and not even get tired. And that's a great feeling. And when you're in the zone, it's definitely exhilarating. And unfortunately, those runners' high days don't come around probably as often as some of us would like. But when it's on, it's definitely it's definitely a great feeling.
When was the last time you were in the zone, Sam?
I raced Eagleman 70.3 a couple of weeks ago, and I had a really good bike ride that day. I was feeling really great on the bike, and it's a really kind of motivating when you're riding hard and you're seeing good numbers from your power, and you're getting time splits back to the chasers, and you can see that time keep opening, and that's a great feeling. So probably Eagleman on the bike, which was a couple of weeks ago.
And what's the hardest training session, Sam, out of all the thousands of sessions you've done from a teenager through to now, the hardest session you've ever done?
I remember this one bike ride that, a couple of guys will probably remember this. Some of the ITU guys that I grew up with, we did this national triathlon, Triathlon Australia. All the ITU guys in Australia went and did this camp at the AIS down in Canberra, and all the coaches were there, the New South Wales coach and the Queensland coach, and everyone was there. Everyone that was anyone in ITU and triathlon was there, and we went on this ride, and I don't really remember how long it was, but I just remember everyone was giving it to each other, and people were just popping off the back, and people were getting, it was just probably one of the hardest rides I've ever done, and it was out in the hills of Canberra. It was like a really fun ride, but it was brutal, and the coaches were all there in their cars and motorbikes, all laughing and telling us to go harder and harder, and we're all, we're completely shattered, and all the coaches are yelling at us with microphones, telling us to go harder, and that was something that was pretty funny. I look back on that with that camp and that whole experience with some fond memories.
And who was the last man standing, so to speak, Sam?
I remember. I think it was Dan Wilson. He was pretty strong. He was showing some really some phenomenal form, actually, and especially on the running track. he was showing some amazing form. So, I think it was Dan, who's still racing now and he's just moved over to 70.3s and having some great success in that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, last question on the performance round. You've done very well. What's the funniest thing you've ever seen while racing or training?
Funniest thing I've ever seen? Oh, man. I'm sure I've seen some funny stuff. Funniest thing I've seen while racing or training?
I reckon you would have seen some funny things running around some of the runs you did at Lennox Head and Byron.
Without going into too much detail, a couple of times, actually, I can think of something pretty funny. This might not be the funniest, but it's something that's definitely pretty funny. We were doing an open water swim in Byron Bay, and we were, out in... Actually, it was Lennox Head, just down from Byron Bay, but it was myself, I think Tim Reed, Tim Burkle, and Clayton Fattel. And Clayton Fattel needed to go Code Brown, and he did this thing called the Geneva Fountain, which I don't know if I want to go into too much detail, but essentially it's similar to a white whale, but when you're packing a deuce, you do the white whale, and the Geneva Fountain erupts. And I'm sure I don't need to go into any more detail than that. And I remember it came up, and a wave took this brown mass, and it came tumbling straight towards me. And it was horrific.
And that was the true catalyst in your racing ability, wasn't it? That's when everything changed. And so, hello, Clayton Fattel, if you're listening in. That was a secret juice. Brilliant. Sam, thanks for sharing. That's good to have a laugh. Sam,
no worries.
Shifting gears, we're out of the performance round. What's on your bucket list, both in sport and personally?
I'd love to do... there's a couple of Ironman races I'd love to do. I'd love to go do Challenge Roth at some point. I really want to do the Escape from Alcatraz triathlon as well. I think that's something that I want to kind of look at doing over the next couple of years. That's the invitational only event, so it's kind of hard to get into, but something that I definitely love.
And in terms of the world of 70.3, I'm sure you've got your eyes on one prize only.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I'd love a 70.3 world title. I don't know if that counts as a bucket list. It's more of a dream or a goal as such, but yeah, that's definitely something that's it's in the forefront of my mind every day. And something that hopefully I can keep chipping away at and each year get closer and closer to. So.
And I mean, your fifth 2016 Worlds on the Sunshine Coast here in Australia, and your former coach Tim took the victory that day in a great sprint finish with Kinlay there, Sebastian Kinlay, and so you're already in the mix. What do you see happening in the world of 70.3 racing as the likes of as we're seeing at the moment, Alistair Brownlee, for example, transitions over? Do you just see it getting faster and faster?
Yeah, I think it's definitely still evolving, and it is getting quicker. Sport's sort of changing. It's very dynamic, and I think to keep being competitive, you need to keep adapting. And yeah, that's something. I'm lucky. I'm still quite young at 27, so I've still got a pretty reasonable amount of time to keep adapting and keep improving. So that's my focus anyway, to keep improving over the next few years and keep adapting to the demands of this this sport that keeps changing.
Sam, if you could boil down all your learnings, and you're an intelligent athlete, as we've already picked up from your sharing so far on today's episode, but if you could boil it down to one bit of advice that you'd issue to listeners to perform at their physical best, what would it be?
One bit of advice. I think it's just, for me, something that's that's been really sort of pivotal in me is maintaining that balance. And I think I brought it up before. It's really key to it. Keep enjoying the sport and longevity in the sport. It's something that I always try and implement, balance. You train hard and race hard and you're serious when you want to, but you also need to have time for your friends, for your families, time where you're not thinking about triathlon. And, that's both for mental and physical. Something that I really like is a mental break, a mental change from training all the time. And that might just be, going out for dinner with friends or having a couple of drinks on a weekend with friends. And it's easy to get in triathlon being all-consuming, and I've definitely been there before. And I think that's my one piece of advice: to keep enjoying the sport, and if you're enjoying it, then you're bound to keep on improving. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, brilliant. And Sam, we've had a social media question come in here from Tona, who says, hey Brad, Mexican listener over here. Here are my questions. How did Sam get started in the sport? So we've addressed that. The most annoying injury, not necessarily the worst. I'm assuming that might be the Achilles tendinopathy you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. That was something that sort of hung around for, on and off for a couple of years, and fortunately, touch wood, I haven't felt it for the past few years. So, but yeah, it's something, and anyone with Achilles problems probably knows it's something that rears its head from time to time, and it's very hard to shake. But that's probably the most annoying injury that I've had.
Yeah, great. And Chris Wood from Saucony here in Australia has just actually commented, tough competitor and gentleman of the sport. So there you go, mate. That's a nice kudos for you.
Thanks, Chris.
Sam, if you could have dinner with 3 people, living or past, who would be at that table?
Man, that's a tricky one. Who would I have over? Probably, I'd have to invite Sarah, my girlfriend, because she probably wouldn't be too impressed if I had a party with celebrities or famous people and she wasn't invited. So that's one. I've always admired and loved Steve Prefontaine, the activities and things like that. I'd love to meet that guy in person. And then maybe someone like Jamie Oliver to whip us up a good feast, something, like a 5-course meal or something, so it would be eaten like kings. Something like that. Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Great table. Sarah Prefontaine and Mr. Jamie Oliver. So you're going to be well fed and entertained by Pre and Sarah's just a good, smart play, mate. You're a good partner. Sam,
that might give me some brownie points.
You don't need them. If you could issue listeners finally with a physical challenge, I should say, from Sam Appleton, anything. It can be entry level or it can be extremely difficult. What's your physical challenge for listeners going to be for the week?
Physical challenge.
We've had Nick Willis issue people to go out and go gardening. We've had Genevieve Lacar's challenge people to do 20 pull-ups continuous. We've had all sorts. So what's yours?
Something that I really hate is in my gym program is doing wall sits for 2 minutes.
Oh.
If you guys can do so, get the Swiss ball behind you and have your legs at like a 90-degree angle, so your quads, your thighs are perpendicular to the floor, and try and hold that for 2 minutes. Do it 4 times on a 60-second recovery. That's probably my most hated exercise in the gym, and it's it's up there with a track session. It's up there with a track session of that I think maybe something like that. Yeah, give that a go if you're at home. It's something pretty easy to do. You don't need too much equipment. You don't need a membership or anything to try. So yeah, go out and do that.
So take it on the wall squat challenge, and next time you're in the gym, Sam, you're gonna have to take a photo or video so we can tag that up in the show notes. But mate, I hate wall squats too. I hate them. I give them out regularly for various lower limb conditions
torture,
in the physio rooms here. But mate, that's a great one. And Sam, looking ahead, how can listeners find out more, keep up to pace with your journey as you move onwards with the upcoming 70.3 World Triathlon Championships? Where can we find you online?
I'm on Instagram at Sam Appo. I think Twitter at Sam_Appo, because Sam Appo was already taken, and I couldn't get that. And then I've got a website, and I'm on Facebook as well. I think it's Sam Appleton Professional Triathlete. So that's usually I keep up to date with all that stuff. I post photos and my power files and some training tips every now and again. Some of my training sessions, not all of them, obviously, but yeah, I usually am, pretty frequent on my social media channels. So if you want to follow me on there, that'd be great.
And listeners, we'll tag up those for Sam in the show notes. So jump over to POGO Physio and you can find those. And Sam, you've got some great supporters, some sponsors. Anyone you just want to, give a quick plug to there, Sam, from your end?
Yeah, for sure. Giant Bikes, Giant Bicycles Australia. They're my biggest sponsor. They've been a huge help to me over the past couple of years, and their bikes are amazing, great. I'm riding really well on those. And Fast Forward Wheels, the wheels that I'm riding, Roka Sports for all my swimwear, and Waddy Inc. are doing my apparel. If you haven't seen my custom race kits that Waddy Inc. are sort of dialing up for me, it's pretty sweet. So yeah, on social media you can see all my stuff and all my gear that I'm racing and training in. So
fantastic and brilliant. And Sam, the biggest question we want to now know: have you arrived safely at Colorado Springs?
I have. I actually just pulled in, so I actually need to get the address off my
your device,
off my girlfriend. So yeah. So I just pulled over, but I'm in the Springs and I'm safe. So,
well, that's the most important thing, mate. So thank you for sharing. Thanks for taking us literally on the journey. Literally, that's a first, but a whole lot of fun. And Sam, wish you all the best for the upcoming World Championships and beyond. And mate, I always, when I saw you win in Cairns in 2015, I thought, there's a young guy and surely there's a World Championship to come. So, mate, all the best on the journey ahead, and thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It must have been that, I think you gave me a pre-race massage the day before the race, so maybe that was the lucky trick. You hit all the right spots.
Definitely that, and Clayton Fattel's protein boost, I think. and on that note, Sam, well done. So, there you have it. I trust you enjoyed another episode, today's episode of the Physical Performance Show, featuring Sam Appleton. If you did, please let Sam and myself know what it was that you enjoyed, what's one learning that you took away, or perhaps you'll undertake Sam's physical challenge for the week. Either way, let us know. That means the world to both Sam and myself. Massive thank you to Daryl Misson, audio engineer, and Susan Wilkin, VA extraordinaire, who make this show possible each and every week. So thank you, guys. If you'd like to subscribe to the podcast, listeners, it's simple. Just click subscribe from within your app. And the benefit there is you don't need to go looking for the episodes each and every week. Rather, they're straight there sitting in your app each and every week. If you know someone, listeners, that's into the sport of triathlon with today's episode and they'd enjoy Sam's sharings, and please hit share from your smartphone and share it away. That'd be awesome to get the word out there more about the podcast, and also share Sam's messages more widely. Lastly, if you're into running or, of course, triathlon, you can check out and pick up your copy of my running and jogging bestseller, You Can Run Pain-Free. It's available on Audible or iBooks, and of course on Kindle versions, and also the good old paperback version. Yep, they still print them. 330 plus pages, available internationally via Amazon or domestically via POGO, Physio, or Amazon inside Australia. Coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, I catch up with Tina Muir. Tina Muir is a great British representative runner, having represented Great Britain in the half marathon in 2016. Tina pursued a professional running career for multiple years, and in the episode we obviously talk around Tina's running career, but more poignantly we actually speak about an often unspoken aspect of female performance, and that is amenorrhea. So Tina takes us through her journey of not having her period for 9 years, what has been a great story that has gone viral after Tina decided to put a pause on her running career. So that's coming up on episode 70 of the Physical Performance Show. Be sure to tune in next week. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.